episode for high GC news. Mima ubibia akwaba had the latest hot kwa era me de bremo. Eruti zonya subscribe to channel idea bo modia say over subscribe. The way I say over click the subscribe button na wabele notification. We had sa video for be upload no. What the first person wants sa ebe kan sa video. Afi we are na like video no give us a thumbs up na fi share ma wo foforo so na wenye bi hwe na wo hu ensemo a ekoso e wo Ghana memo hanum afi ntentemara yembura ye ensemo a abeto ye pno so uminti ye sankomo ya babeto je sa report mama yiti sansemo ye ekoso uminti
service. Go and see their conditions of service. The army, all of us are in the same boat, and that is why as a country the issue of corruption must be dealt with head on. Yesterday, did you listen to the Attorney General? People still in this country without looking at their height, at least still according to the size of your height or the length of your height, they're still beyond their heights. A small institution called the National Service Authority, but even the figure that was put out there is a conservative figure. That 548 million. They go and steal, and when you are an innocent person contesting in your small constituency, they use that money to come and depose you. Ill-gotten wealth, ghost names. Hey! Increasing returns. In 2018 to 2019, they stole 25 million. In 2020, they were sympathetic towards. They reduced it to 21 million. Then they shot it up. Election year 2020 to 55 million. Then when they realized that the Ghanaian was gullible, because after stealing all this money, you renewed our mandate in 2020. They moved it to 61 million, and 2023 credit, that was it, 350 million. And they came back to their senses and bringing it down to 32 million. These are the issues. This is why the reason why the Ghana Residents Association must strike. That why is it that few people who hold this country to ransom, and this is only the national service? Look at the people that are going to be prosecuted. Asibe, where was Asibe coming from? He was the former mayor of KMA. So if he could come and do this, it means he did worse at KMA. But the Ghana Audit Service, that institution must be scrapped. Where have they been all these years? Every year you claim to be doing auditing. So you mean to tell me that when you go and do your auditing, you don't see anything? That institution, who watches the watchman? Who audits the audit service? Who audits them? By now, traces the Ministry of the Attorney General's department must begin to go back to KMA and audit them the period that Asante was the mayor there. You see, Mustafa, I said the time with that number here. Akufo Addo, when you steal, then he rewards you more. From the national service, where did they move him to? Please allow. We are doing this today. We will do it together. Always you come and sit here. You'll be watching us. Right. You don't want your voice to come in. He was, as it were, moved to the Ministry of what? Youth and Sports. Ghana was going to just Cote d'Ivoire here. It's about 30 minutes by air to just go and play all Africa Cup of Nations. We were eliminated in the first round. This gentleman came back and told us that we expended $3 million. Hey! As if that was not enough. 13th All Africa Games. You remember? 13th All. Professor Amina Lassa, whatever you are, that man deserves a national award. You remember when he exposed the Eswal administration? That the GBC only took $105,000. Meanwhile, in the budget, they claim they had paid $3 million to the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. How can we be so wicked? Now they told us that they cooking alone. For Egyptians, cooking wache and ampesi for the Egyptians, Ethiopians, they expended $15 million. Bediatuo and the wife did the cooking. Tax journalists, when you are going on a program, this paper just write your name, send a number. Solomon Owusu. Small thing, then you put a frame on it. Even Olympic Games in France, for the whole world, the entire world, they expended only 700,000 euro. Ghana here, All Africa Games 13th edition, we expended $4.6 million on tax, according to Yusuf Mustafa. University of Ghana Sports Stadium, Akufo had done it to about 84% or so. We were left 16% to complete. That's the Titan tracks and some few fixtures and fittings. The gentleman looked straight into you and me, our faces, and told us that he expended $34 million to complete it. Meanwhile, Takwa Sports Stadium, newly built stadium, but Goldfish Ghana costed $13 million. This country, why are we like this? Why? What wrong did we commit? Renovation, 3 halls, Elizabeth say, Liman, Kwapon, that stretch. It's a hall that is already occupied. You only fix air condition. This man told us they expended $16 million to do that. Because he has succeeded at the the National Service Secretariat, he was emboldened. And those faceless people who are the presidency, who also enjoy the booty, Mr. Attorney General, don't look at it on the surface. They couldn't have enjoyed this booty without the connivance of the presidency. Take it from me. From the office of the president and the vice president. Investigate, I have said, NAPO. You remember NAPO? There was no way, nobody can convince me that they were paying 100,000 people every month. Do you believe that? But national service alone should tell you that figure is padded. Oh yes, my brother. You didn't get some, that's why. They bought money to come and remove you from that place. But you will go back, inshallah, on our ticket. The new patriotic party will not see the need. But you see, all these things has happened in this country. And the nurses and other professionals, UTA is not concerned about it. All you hear is that book allowance. No. You must be demonstrating on some of these issues. And the youth of this country must be angry enough that your future is being toiled. We were told growing up that we must go to school, burn the midnight candle, go to the university. When we are done, we will get jobs to do. A lot of people have first degree, masters, PhD. They are home. These people only come 2 days, 3 days. They are filthy rich. They build everywhere. See the apartments springing up everywhere. It's not for these Lebanese and Indians that you see them. They are going to hide behind them and they are put in lap. And they will come and tell you and I, our children, that their parents were smart. He says smart working. Stealing from the state is smart working. And that is why you see a lot of people, young ones, now they want to enter into politics. When you ask them, what is your ideology? They don't have anything. All they know is that when I come into politics, by a year or two, I'll have a house at East Legon. Is that the motivation to be in politics? Everywhere, TV. So they should go back, Senna, and then negotiate with the ministry items that are doable, that can be contained by the budget. The ministry must consider it, but they must not be under any pressure to do what they cannot sustain. Because we are building a country, we are not building a political party. Whatever negotiations you go to agree, you are binding the entire country. Let's do what is sustainable. If every nurse or doctor will leave, let them leave. We will die here. Nigerians will come and take over the country and they will manage it for us. But I can tell you that this country will survive.
I think the point has to be made that there are so many millions of Ghanaians who cannot make ends meet. There's so many Ghanaians who earn so very little. Indeed, up until recently, drivers of parliamentarians were complaining that their pay was below the legal minimum wage. That's Parliament. There are some Ghanaians who are married and they have children. And at the end of the month, they take less than 500 Ghana cedis. This is the reality. This is the reality. And some of them do very essential work. Some of them provide security for our homes. Some of them are in charge of the kitchens in our homes and so on. So very crucial work. Now, even for some of our citizens who are engaged in fishing, the fishermen and so on, how much do they earn? So the problem of people not earning enough to be able to survive is not the exclusive problem of nurses. It's a national problem. And I think it's important for us to look at it from that angle. Look, if you take commercial drivers, they are crying. They've been crying for a long time. Talk to the taxi drivers. Talk to the trotro drivers. Talk to even the Uber drivers and so on. And when they tell you their stories, sometimes, if you are not very strong, tears come to your eyes. You see, these commercial drivers, many of them, when and if they are not able to make their daily sales, the car owners simply just take their cars and they become unemployed. So to avoid that situation, what they do is that they go to how do they call it? Money lenders and borrow money in order to be able to pay their daily sales. So many of them are living with huge debts and so on. So poor conditions of service, bad remuneration and so on is not an exclusive problem of nurses. It's a national problem that we have to look at. You understand? That's the first point I like to make. Now, over the last 1 week that these nurses have been on strike, we've heard very interesting and sometimes heart-wrenching stories. I saw on television, actually on Metro television, a woman was crying. She was crying. Why? Her brother, who only recently married, 31-year-old young man, had an asthma attack and was rushed to the hospital. The nurses refused to touch her. He died in their hands. Now, for all you know, this young man himself could be a victim of this neo-colonial, neoliberal national economy that we are running. But he died. He died. He died because government was not able to pay a 13th month allowance to nurses. He died. Then there's the story of a baby who was born in one of the hospitals. The placenta did not come out. There was no nurse to help. The mother died. Then I heard the story as told by mortuary attendants. I'm sure all of you heard them. Saying that the numbers of people who were being taken to the mortuary, who were dying, was so much. One mortuary attendant said, "We haven't seen this before. So many people are dying." And I could go on and on with the stories. There was one particular story which was so very interesting. And I heard that story on Radio Gold's morning show, which you host, Senna, you host that, and you told the story. The story of a doctor who had to carry out surgery, very crucial surgery, on a midwife. And this doctor was not so clear as to whether he should do that crucial surgery or not. So saying that, look, if I do the surgery and something goes wrong, and this midwife has to be catered for, there's no nurse. So this doctor then calls the midwife and says, look, this is the situation. I have to postpone the surgery on you until the strikes are over. And the midwife said, don't worry, I'm a midwife, I'll make special arrangements. My goodness. Yes, she could make special arrangements. She and her colleagues were on strike, but they could make special arrangements to cater for themselves. What about the Kayayi? What about the commercial drivers I just spoke about? Could they also make special arrangements to cater for their health needs? Obviously not. Now, Senna, the strikes are over, or at least they claim that they have suspended the strikes. They will get their 13th month salary. They will get most of the things they are asking for, if not all, and they will be backdated. You understand? Backdated to the time when the collective agreement was signed. The people who lost their lives, how are we going to revive them? How are we going to revive them? Today, Jesus is not walking through mortuaries to wake up the dead. He's not there. He did that in the past. 2,000 years ago, he walked and woke the dead and so on. I haven't seen that happen anymore. They are dead and gone forever. Maybe even their condition is better than those who have debilitating health conditions for the rest of their lives, because for a period of 24 hours, some condition could not be taken care of. Shouldn't we be thinking about all of this in the evaluation of this strike and its impact on our society? Shouldn't we? You see, the stories we heard were so many. So many. Now, one of the stories that I heard, and it killed me, the leadership, or members of the leadership of the Ghana Registered Nurses Association.
Have some midwives in there.
Add it for me, no problem. Actually declared a strike. They declared a nationwide strike. And then they hopped onto aircrafts and left the country. Unbelievable. Yes, they have a right to strike. You understand? But you declare a strike as a bargaining to whatever, so that your employers can talk to you, so you can reach compromises, so you can press your demand. Now, when you declare the strike and you leave the jurisdiction, what are you saying? You are not interested in talking. You just want to inflict as much damage as possible. You don't want negotiations. They declared a strike and they left the country. Oh my God. That's what they did. Unbelievable. And you see, what is shocking is that they should have sent a clear message to their members that their leaders are not fighting for them. Because if you're my leader, and you declare a strike, and you leave the country, how are we to make progress on the demands that we are making and so on? Unbelievable. But this is what they did. They declared the strike and they flew out. Amazing. They did it. But you see, Sana, look, the right to strike is a democratic right. It's a right which is enshrined in the 1992 Constitution.
Yes.
Indeed, strike is a weapon that workers use in order to improve their conditions of work and conditions of life. Legitimate right. But we are told by those who know the law and who interpret the law and who work with the law that the enjoyment of one's right must not interfere with the enjoyment of the rights of others. This is a principle. This is a principle which is upheld in all societies by all people and so on. So nurses have a right to strike. Every worker has a right to strike. We should defend that right to strike. But what about the right to life of the 31-year-old man, recently married 31-year-old man, who died as a result of the strike? How do we balance? How do we balance? Where are the caveats when it comes to the exercise of the right to strike? You understand? These are important questions that we need to ask. Now, we say that, nurses play a very important function in society. It is true. In fact, on this panel are two doctors. And the doctors sometimes tell us that they cannot perform without the nurses. Nurses are crucial. You understand? They are crucial not just in curing diseases, but also in preventing diseases. Nurses are so very important for every society and so on. But my goodness, the nurses, don't they need other professionals? The midwife, on whom surgery was to be performed, she needs others. Perhaps she needed an Uber driver to take her to the hospital for the surgery to be performed on her. When she woke up in the morning, she needed to eat. Which farmer grew the food? And so on. You understand? Medicines will be used on her. It is people in the pharmaceutical industry who may not be nurses who produce the medicines which will be used in performing the surgery on her. We are in the rainy season. She's going to work. She needs to be protected against the weather. She may use an umbrella. Are the umbrellas produced by nurses? Certainly not. If the roof over her house is leaking, a carpenter has to seal the leakage. That is not the job of nurses and so on. So if all of us, including those who receive 300 cedis a month and 500 cedis a month and so on, go on strike, and our leaders leave the jurisdiction, they cannot be reached, no telephone call can reach them and so on, and behaved as the nurses behaved, what kind of society would we have? These are questions we should be asking ourselves. What kind of society would we have if all of us were to behave this way? President John Dramani Mahama has come and is pushing what he calls the reset agenda. Part of his reset agenda is that some people should no longer be taking ex gratia awards. Now, what if these people who take ex-gratia awards also come and say, what? How can you reduce, you know, what has been provided us since 1991? We're also going to go on strike. What then happens? And so on. Now, another interesting dimension of this strike action is simply the fact that it was declared illegal. Illegal. Because there are procedures for embarking upon strike. There are things that we have to do in order to make strike actions legal. The Constitution provides for the right to strike. But there's so many caveats also. Now this strike was declared illegal. The nurses said, go to hell with the law. And the moment they said, go to hell with the law, they lost their right to enjoy the right to strike. Because the right to strike itself is provided for by the law. So if you don't respect the law, how do you then enjoy the right to strike? And indeed, the press conference they held yesterday, interesting. The press conference they held yesterday, what they told us was that they were suspending the strike action because they've met the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health and so on. Not that they were abiding by the law. Significant. Not that they were abiding by the law. And when the court decision was made known to them, what was their reaction? We are going to meet our members and we'll meet our lawyers first. Who said that when courts make pronouncements, we can refuse to abide by the pronouncements of the courts because we haven't met our family members and work colleagues and lawyers? Who told them that? You know? And they're worried. They are very worried about misrepresentation, disinformation, politicization, and so on. They commented a lot about that. What about them? The authorities came to you and said, look, we appreciate the difficulties we are going through. We have a crisis. We are running an IMF program, which I don't support anyway. You understand? There are so many conditions that we have to meet and so on. So please bear with us. What motives did they ascribe to the authorities? What motives did they ascribe to the authorities? Were they sometimes not engaged in the misrepresentation that they were accusing others of engaging in? And if they could engage in misrepresentation and so on, what about the rest of us in the society? You see? They were told that, well, the budget was prepared and this would mean that things in the budget have to be varied and so on. And it is not possible immediately. No, we won't agree. Meanwhile, when the collective bargaining agreement was signed, which gave them all these allowances, some of which I've never heard in my life before, funeral allowance and so on. Hey, Master, where is that coming from? But okay, no problem. I mean, whatever you use to increase your pay, you know, putogumu, frigumu, nina, the same. So no problem, I'm not going to complain. But then they came back and accused government of bad faith. On what basis? When the collective bargaining agreement was signed, a section of the nurses, psychiatric nurses, went to court complaining that their own grievances had not been factored in by their leaders, that their leaders were discriminating against them, that the practices that their leaders were using in the negotiations were undemocratic. So even within the nursing fraternity, some nurses had problems with those leaders who declared the strike. accusing them of being undemocratic, accusing them of ignoring their conditions and so on. Now, this matter lasted until February. The collective bargaining agreement could not be implemented until February. President John Mahama Dramani and Dramani Mahama and Ato Forson and so on, they were not in office. When all this was going on, they were not in office. The matter appears to have finally been resolved in February. That is the claim. But if you look at the strike and so on, it is clear that the matters were not resolved. Because it is not all nurses who supported the strike action. There were some nursing associations who refused to join because they thought that we were getting a raw deal from the Ghana registered midwives and nurses association, whatever it is called. Okay? So there were some who were still felt aggrieved and so on. Okay. Now, so in February, when finally the court matters were resolved somehow, we then needed to have a roadmap for the implementation of the collective bargaining agreement. February. The government had taken office on January 7th. And there were all kinds of problems with the transition. The government took office without a budget. There were only some provisional estimates which would enable the government to function for a while and so on. Nurses said they be that. That as for them, they don't see the difference between previous governments and current governments. And that once you get into government, you take over the full responsibility of your predecessor. That was the argument they put forward. Now, this argument ignored the fact that the transition to a new government comes with difficulties, comes with problems, which all of us must bear. But they ignored it. They wanted to have their pound of flesh. Okay? I try to read the Bible sometimes.
Really?
Yes. I try. There are many reasons for reading the Bible. And in fact, I recommend very strongly that everybody, if you can find time, read the Bible. Because it's a book which has been used for all kinds of purposes. Used to deceive, used to cheat, used to justify everything. So sometimes, let's read the Bible. It helps us all, you understand? And as I was growing up, there's a story which was constantly told in the churches. The story of I think it is not a religious story, but it has been told in the churches. I'm sure all of you have heard that story in the churches and so on. The story about somebody who was demanding his pound of flesh. You remember? Merchants of Venice. Thank you. Demanding his pound of flesh. Hey, this man would not budge. He wanted his pound of flesh. Okay, here is a knife. Take your pound of flesh, but make sure that no blood drops. I'm sure you've heard this story.
Yeah.
And there are many stories also in the Bible and so on, which are similar to this story, which is told in the Merchant of Venice. So, okay, you want your 13th month allowance, 13th month pay, take it. You want your funeral allowance, take it. Whatever you want, take it. But make sure that nobody dies as a result of your actions. I mean, incredible what has happened. But, like my brother here, I like to take a very broad picture. The nurses have gone on strike because of these demands and so on. Now, what the nurses are demanding, there are millions of Ghanaian workers who also feel entitled to the same conditions that the nurses want for themselves. So, tomorrow, now they've met the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, some concessions will be made and so on, they will be paid. Don't forget that as soon as they are paid, other categories of workers say, you are paying this to nurses, stand well, we are coming. So now, architects working with government also come and say, what? You have to pay our annual licensing fees for us. It will be legitimate because you've granted it to some others. Then doctors working for government come and say, we too. And then lawyers working for government say, we too. And then surveyors working for government come and say, we too. And on and on and on. And then drivers come and say, yes, we too will renew our license, our driving license, you have to pay for us. Whoa. Everybody comes. My goodness.
That's for the drivers, the MPs that are doing it.
Well, but that's MP matter. What do you think is going to happen? This country will crash to the ground. Okay. Now, there's only one way of avoiding that. And that one way of avoiding that is for government to be just open, transparent with workers' organizations. Indeed, it is time to involve the organizations of working people in running government. There is no reason why the leaders of organized labor, when government is drawing up its budget, cannot sit at the table with government. How much money have we made this year? We've made so much. How do we allocate the money that we have made? And this is not a decision by government. It's a collective decision by representatives of the working people and government together. The government and working people's organization must begin to work together. It's an imperative. If it doesn't happen, this country will collapse. The TUC must be consulted on all important national issues. The Ghana National Association of Teachers must be consulted, must become an important stakeholder in all the decisions that government would make. All the important decisions that government will make. You understand? NAGRAT, University Teachers Association and so on. Nurses, the Doctors Association and so on. We have to create a forum which enables them to participate in these important decisions so that they can see for themselves, feely, gani, what the issues are, what the facts are, and so on. They must be involved in making those decisions in order to avert unnecessary, painful labor actions. Look, no matter what you say, whether you like it or not, the reality is that petroleum prices have fallen significantly over the last 4 months. Significantly. I mean, from 17 cedis per liter to 12 cedis per liter is no small fall in prices. And that everybody knows, we all feel it. The government statistician says that inflation is dropping and has been dropping consistently over the last 4 months. The cedi is gathering strength over the last 4 months and so on. Some of the things that we used to see, the opulent display of wealth in government and so on, we no longer see on that scale. There's still some, but it's not on that scale. I mean there's still some. I'm still driving to work in the morning, and so many four-wheel drives with sirens pushing us off the road and so on. It is not different from what happened under the Akufo Addo administration. Who are these people with sirens? So many of them pushing us off the road and so on. What is this stupid arrogance? which is still being displayed. So I know that some of it is still there. You understand? But at least it has reduced. You know that it has reduced.
No, but this guy, A plus says that he now understands why the sirens, and respectfully, I don't intend to cut you, but
you can cut me, no problem.
I'm pleading. There are some days that you have to be at 4 critical events. 4 critical events, and even in government, sometimes a chairman is supposed to sign a certain document, and you're supposed to be there not by virtue of you wanting to be there, but by virtue of the fact that for government work to begin. So sometimes, respectfully, they are not going to buy Wache. Let me put it that way.
Sometimes they're going to buy Wache.
I agree with you sometimes. Other times it's worse.
I'll give you my own example. You see this road from Jimpa.
That back.
Yes, who passes Fiesta Royal and joins the traffic light. In the morning I'm going to work. All of us are going to work. All of us are struggling. So much traffic. Then some car giddy, with siren and so on, then pushes us off the road and so on. I peep into the car and his children going to school. What check are those children going to say?
No, that's
there is abuse.
Yeah, some of them.
And besides, the legal position is that there are no more than 4 people in this country who are entitled to sirens. That's the legal position.
Yeah, well, it hasn't been amended. That's
right. Yes. So those who are doing that know that they are behaving illegally. So and they should be stopped.
You conduct a citizen.
Every police car with a siren uses it. Are all police people on emergency? Every military car with a siren uses it. Are they on emergency? Stop troubling us. It must stop. That is a modest, that's arrogant misbehavior which must stop immediately. So there's still some of that. And other practices which smack of arrogance, impudence.
Or using a car without a license plate.
Yes.
Which must all stop. But the point I'm making is that we've come to the point where, in the interest of the nation, and given the progress that we have started making now, everybody can see that we are making some progress. You can hate John Dramani Mahama, that's your business. Hate him all you want. You understand? You can hate Ato Forson, that's your business. I don't care.
Hey, Ato.
But the point is that some progress is being made and needs to be sustained. And too many industrial actions, even if justified, may wreck the progress that we are making. And the only way to avoid that is to ensure that the working people are involved in the decision-making process. That you don't look down on working people. You understand? You don't look down on working people. They're important partners. The nurses are important partners. The commercial drivers are important partners and so on. And I'm sure that if we adopt this approach of involving all the different sections of our society in the process of making decisions and so on, we'll be able to avoid some of these unnecessary and burdensome agitations.
Thank you.
Yo, it for winning and someone about beto. Yapono Mikao says, so when you subscribe to channel idea, Bobody has said, over subscribe. No, I like video, no give us a thumbs up. Now, share my waffle froso. Now, when you be here, now, and somewhere koso, I will Ghana memoir. Also, with me, otchere, wondering after and some way, I will comment boxing. But in my next video.
Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. You can also drop your comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to turn on the notification.